Hello, my name is Russell Schlup and I'm here making a demonstration video of my code for Lab 5, the CRUD assignment. The requirements were we had to have a delete and a add user. Alright, so it took me a while and not even the lab instructor could figure it out. We've gone through several days, but I figured it out at 3:40 a.m. today. The day it's due. Well, technically. Still the same night as yesterday. Or the day before. But down here. Alright. So what I have here is in the get user. Where's the get user? Got the app factory, create user, get user. Here's a get user. Alright, get user, what it does is it makes a call to get users. There we go. So, what happens is when the CRUD is loaded, it will make a call to get users. Once it's done that, it will make a call to get the user data, which calls over here, which gets all the data in the array. So basically just calls the JSON element right here, which is this beginning JSON element, which is data array with two objects inside of it, which are the two of the users. Alright, now that that's done, what happens is you bring up the site, and these two objects are to start off with. Alright, because they're the only two in the JSON at the time. So, after that, they're in the CRUD. There's a listener to, it's a ng repeat for each user and users, obviously, and then a username, and then it stores the ID so that I can use that later on. The ng click right here is for the delete. So what it does is it passes in the ID right here, the ID of the user that is selected, and then calls user model dot delete user and passes in the ID. So we go back here and down here in user model equals users. Users is up here, is this app factory. It's the entire app factory. So all of it, the create user, get users, get user, the delete user, it just calls the entire thing so we can use the functions it's asking for. So what happens is after I do that, useMod equals users, I go to user model, which is this, users, so dot, go back here, user model, which is the entire factory, or all of the factories in user, and it goes to the delete user factory. It goes up here to the delete user factory. Where are you? Okay, delete user factory. What happens is it goes through a for loop of all the data in the array. After it does that, it checks to see which one, since it's doing a for loop, which one, this is the if statement, which will call the one with the ID of the ID that was passed in right here, which was passed in through here, user ID. Sorry for the noise. Callback. So what it does is it does a callback. No, whoops, delete user. Alright. This was just here as a placeholder. What it does is I stored it in a variable inside here for the selected user, which is the data array, which is the one that we have selected with the ID that was passed in. Console logged it just to make sure that is the correct user that is being deleted. That was for me. And then data array splice. So what it does is it goes in and it pulls that user out of the array and saves it. After that, the scope, the user model here in the CRUD controller, right here, gets the information from the data array and updates all the information on there. So as you can see right here, delete user, it's gone. It's completely gone. It's not hidden. It's not anything. It is gone. It's the only thing in here is Bob. It is completely gone. And so, for the create user, however, scope.addUser. Go here into the CRUD, and which is an input field right here, add user. So if you see this right here, this input field, add user. So what happens is, on the ng.click, it goes to add user, right there, add user. Add user calls on users, which is, you know, thing for the entire array, all of the factories, and then it goes on create user, which is one of the factories inside users, and then it passes in the scope.name. So the name that you put in the field is passed in to create user, so it will create the correct user with the name that you would put in there. So down here in user, or you add user, come on, create user. Here it is, create user. This is the name that was passed in from the input field. Now, var id equals data. This right here is to put an ID on it for you. What it does is it finds the data in the array, the length of it, -1, you know, because it starts at 0, .id, which will be the last thing in the array. So if the last thing in the array will always have the greatest ID. Let's say if you delete it at one time, if you delete, say there's 5, you need to delete the 5th one, and then you add another one, it would say 5. But if you do it this way, it will actually pull in the 5 and add 1, so it will be 6. That way there's no problems when you push it up there. And then name goes into here in the name, and then it just pushes the entire thing into the data array. And then after that, a console log the data array just to make sure that it's completely in there. So just to clarify everything, this does work. So ASDF add user, there it is. If you look right here, it's actually there. ASDF is right here. It's right there, ASDF, and the ID. So now there's only 2 objects. Before, the 2 objects were my name and Bob's name. Now the 2 objects are Bob's name and ASDF. The ID of 3 instead of the ID of 2, because the last thing in the array, and +1, so it makes it have a greater ID. That way there's never crossing IDs between the 2. And that concludes my demonstration for Lab 5, create and delete for the CRUD